Yo, yo. What up? Welcome back, everybody. Hope everyone is doing well. Another day, another night, another grind. All right. Oh, wrong button. All right, there we go. Gonna be tending to my farm here real quick, and then we'll do 1 hour at Pila. This will be my third hour. Or wait, well, yeah. I haven't had too much time here the past couple days. I've only been able to grind like 30 minutes. So I guess if you take 30 minutes from yesterday and then 30 minutes 2 days ago, that would equate to my fourth hour or my third hour. So I'll be doing technically my fourth hour. If that even makes any sense. Also, got some nice RBG lights behind me. I think it sets the vibe a little bit better. What? That's kind of cool. What a mess. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Oh, you're mine. Get back here. Come back here. Thank you for the follow. Yo, yo, thanks for the follow. I need to set my crop. There we go. There we go. Ba-da-da-da. Ba-da-da-da. I am so glad it is Friday tomorrow. Come on. So glad it's Friday. Ba-da-da, ba-da, ba-ba. Ba-da-da, ba-ba, ba-ba. How much? 5,200. Not bad, I guess. Let me see if I can. Well, nah, it'll be all right. Too lazy. All right, let's go, my wizard. Pila. All right. We're going to be... Well, let me wait. Let me wait until I get all my buffs and everything up. But we're going to be listening to a podcast. But I'll express what the name is here momentarily. Once I get everything. Oh, hopefully. Okay, 2 days. I'm good with that. All right, let me repair this. Villa scroll. Shop. Buy. I'm almost at 50%. It's kind of hype with my level. All right, I need this. Okay. I need to get 4 of these because we're going to be doing an hour. Also, all right, so we got to remember that number. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in my calculator. So 51,287. 51,287. $51,287. Maybe I should. All right, idle. Cool. Okay. All right, so the podcast. It's the best ACG gaming podcast, episode 484, 3 hours long. Obviously, we're not going to be listening to the full 3 hours. Probably at least an hour. We'll see. We'll see what type of information that they got here. I gotta make sure my volume is loud enough.
We can. Appreciate everybody showing up. You probably did not get an alert for this one, which only makes sense because why would we want to alert people that we are doing a podcast?
Make it
The
easy
new
for people
podcast.
That would be
to
stupid.
get in.
That would be completely dumb. How's everybody in the chat? I hope you're doing well. Johnny and I are going to be by ourselves today. Silver is out. We're going to be talking about, well, there's actually.
Let me see. We'd maybe turn it down one little notch. Let's see. Try that.
A lot of
all right, now let's
there's
see
a lot of things
how
that
it
came out. Black
sounds.
Ops 6, the zombie mode, there was a video. Splitgate 2, more coverage. Deathbound, I want to talk about the previews and reviews and information about
Test.
all of that went on. Space Marine, the previews, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk a little bit about Bungie and Marathon and their issues, as well as just
All right,
Destiny as a whole, Sony's deal with
there we
them,
go.
how all of that has sort of come about and where they might be from a business level, as well as some more gaming rumors and news. And anything you guys have questions about, you can feel free to throw them into chat. And I would appreciate it. Yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot of gaming stuff.
Josh says, I would absolutely watch a podcast. It's just the host figuring out technical.
Also, before we even really get into this, it's so crazy to think that Game Informer is done for. Like, blows my mind. Blows my mind. Like, I was so surprised when I read that news that they were just shutting down Game Informer. Like, you would think that maybe they would just try to like sell it, or at least maybe keep the website up and just keep the previous like articles up for a certain time period maybe or something, but just shutting the whole thing down, like, it's crazy, man. That's kind of cool. Little animation. Huh. I think that's with the costume. That's pretty neat. I don't think you do the animation though with if you're awakening weapons out though. Huh, and that's something. Well, anyway.
Man, you wouldn't even. It's actually difficult to describe how easy it is to. It's not even making a mistake. It's quite literally you get everything set up, and then you jump over to something else. And if if your office is at your home, which mine is, Johnny's is as well. Things can just go wrong at all times. You'll be doing stuff. Things will be set up, and then suddenly, like the duplicate audio will go away, which
Gotta
is
make
what
sure
I
I put
use. I
my
use duplicate
XP
audio that's piped
scroll
through my
on.
headphones, and it just goes away.
I really wish I could
In the
hit
middle of the
62.
day
I feel like that would
yesterday,
make a
I was
difference.
with the guys in Discord talking, and I just was like, "Boy,
Wait, let me
everybody's
look
been
at my
quiet for
crystals real
like
quick.
Yeah.
an hour."
Or a camera. Sometimes you will need to like
Crystals.
replug it so it works.
Yeah.
This random stuff.
Yeah, and I was just like,
I
"Oh man,
wonder.
something must be up. It must, everybody's just quiet today." And then go back and look, and people.
Hold on. All right, sorry, I keep pausing the podcast. Let me see. Oh no, okay, I do have the accuracy up. All right, I was curious if that would make a difference with the accuracy, but I guess probably not. Hmm. I don't know. Okay. That's my PvP. PvE. All right. Whatever. We'll see. I guess these are decent.
See people's faces lighting up in the little
Yeah.
Discord icon, and I'm all, can I just
Oh.
not hear them? And yeah, it's gone. It's not working today. But we're not the only ones with technical issues. There have been a bunch of technical issues. Yesterday, or about 2 days ago, Steam was down for quite a while. Gmail was down yesterday.
I need
think
to
it was yesterday
download
that
Steam
Gmail
on
went
my
down.
computer.
Feels
I haven't
like
even
every
downloaded
day
it
we
yet.
wake up, there's a new technical alert of some major website, major
Recently, it's
support.
been
Dude, it's been
huge.
Let's start
crazy,
it.
man. Did
There
you
we
guys get
go.
hit with any of these, or you probably
Here
Nothing
we
at all.
go.
don't use? Okay.
Luckily, I think it was a little bit more like the home editions and stuff like that. I'm not
Mhm.
too sure though.
The home editions of like, you mean? Well, I have a
Or
business
like the
Gmail,
Windows
so
stuff,
I guess.
or are you talking about
Well,
something
Gmail
else?
in particular went down for quite a
Oh,
while, but I don't know if
All
maybe
right.
yeah, maybe you don't even use
yeah,
Gmail.
we don't.
Let's see how
Yeah,
well we
We
do.
don't do.
I've been
you have
We
your own
don't use
averaging
Gmail.
internal like server
about
email bound
17,000.
from at your own company
Kind of.
kind of
Yeah,
thing
we have like an intranet thing going on.
that takes care of everything on its own, so you don't have to worry about somebody randomly
Yeah.
twisting the wrong cable or putting in the wrong dial, and it just everything goes to shit.
Right. Exactly.
Um, First of all, let's talk a little bit about what you're streaming and what you're playing, and then I'll talk a little bit about what I've been playing. You guys, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe, share that we've changed to this channel. I would appreciate it. And when
I
we're
wonder why they
done,
made a
I would
separate
love
channel.
for you to
Yeah.
comment if you get a chance. What have you been playing?
Also, the like, if you hit like, it actually
Yeah,
probably
does help.
helps, right? To like
Oh yeah,
send
Yeah,
whatever
hit
they
the
want.
reviewing on
hit the like
podcast like
button. Hit my
iTunes
like
and
button.
Spotify helps tremendously
Appreciate
as
it.
Yeah.
well. So what
You're awesome.
have you been playing?
So I got into a little bit of Cyberpunk this week. I played.
Never played that.
I started playing the DLC,
Okay.
Phantom
Yeah.
Liberty.
I still
Pretty
need to
good
beat
early
GTA
impressions
5.
there so far, but it just kind of
That's
like
kind of sad.
readjusting my expectations for the game, as we talked
Ah,
about, as a pure, roller coaster ride
Right.
type thing. And it's been fun getting back into it. It's got a lot of nice little side quests as well that I kept running into. It's been enjoyable. I've continued to play some SnowRunner because it's an amazing comfort game.
Yeah.
Whenever I want to chat to you guys in Discord, that's kind of my go-to because I can play that without like having my mental bandwidth taken.
SnowRunner.
There's no
It just sounds
story
like a
going
boring
on.
game.
It's really, really it plays nicely with talking to people or maybe listening to a podcast. So that has been great. I've also been playing a little bit of Cat Quest 3.
Oh hell yeah!
I know,
Awesome.
yeah, we laughed about it, but it's actually a very pretty game. It's a very pretty game. It's a casual RPG. Um, if people think about Castle Crashers, where you had the classes and stuff you could go as, and think of that, but I'm playing single player. You can do local co-op, but you can do different builds. So you can go for like, sort of a mage cat, or
I need to
a
remember to
pistolier.
do my speed buff.
There are different melee weapons and stuff, and
Like every 2
everything
minutes.
you equip, you
I need
can
to remember to
see
do
in the
that. Or every
character.
3 minutes. I think it's 3 minutes.
For people who haven't seen it, it's got this really nice looking, like a 2.5D. I don't know exactly how you would describe it, Carrick. Have you seen it?
I've seen it. Yeah,
Like
2.5D
visually,
is what it is.
2.5D. And everything you put on, you can see, which is really cool. So, if you equip an ice mage helmet, you can see that. So that's really cool. I don't know why my camera decided that it should now focus on my background for a little bit. But yeah, that's what I've been up to, and highly recommend that game if people are looking for like some light, you know, uh,
RPG style stuff.
It's got lots of cat puns if you're into that.
I
some
thought
really good stuff.
personally it looked graphically.
I feel like I'm getting
impressed
better with the
me
combo, so that's a
recently
good
when I
thing.
checked it out. I think it was the
Getting
night
more
before
efficient
last
with
you
it.
guys were talking about it. I was like, oh, go check this out. And graphically, it actually looked pretty good. It reminded me, like you said, Castle Crashers. There was a game that was on the Xbox 360 where you were Undead Knight, and I apologize, I can't remember the name. There were a lot of games where you were Undead Knights, and a lot of games on Xbox 360 on arcade. I think it started with a D. I think it was like Death something. I can't remember, but I like those kind of games, and then this one changes it up. I like the puns. I like the sort of goofiness, that kind of thing. I think those are awesome. So overall, I'll probably check it out. I ended up buying it, but it's one of those things where you never quite know if you'll jump into it. But what I saw looked really good. How many hours do you have into Cat Quest?
Sorry, I was muted there for a second. I would say I got about 4 hours.
And you like it
And
so far? It's worth it.
yeah, it's fully open world, which was interesting because I kept running into really high level enemies, getting
Mhm.
my ass handed to me. But it's pretty good how they do it. There's water, and you have a boat you can use, but you can also
Man, I would
just
love to
Does the
get like
cat hate water?
20K.
yourself. No,
Oh
That'd be
no, it
awesome.
you've got a
swims.
floater,
Oh
and you
wow.
can, yeah. And again, it looks good, man.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah.
water looks good. It kind of impressed me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought
so
I
I
thought it looked
recommend
good.
people take a look. I thought it was really good for the price, for sure.
Oh, and Rogerio says it's on Switch, which I wasn't aware of.
It is. Yeah, I've been playing it on my Steam Deck a great deal. It's also a great game to sit back and
Yeah. Yeah, those are the
yeah,
best.
have a crack.
What are you streaming this weekend then? That?
So I'm probably going to Phantom Liberty
Mhm.
because that's been pretty popular
Right.
with the
Man,
regular.
these
So
dudes play some
we'll
games
go
I've never
there,
even
have a
heard of.
crack, and see what Idris Alba is up to.
See what Idris Alba has to say about the world and its problems. I've been playing, well, Deathbound, Space Marine, two games that you're going to see previews from me. If you guys get a chance, make sure to check out those previews. It does help. We've tried to switch the podcast off of that channel so that that channel recovers. And that's on me, really, just with how it was going. Reg wants to come on more often occasionally, and Absy can't do Fridays, but he can do Wednesdays, and all this kind of stuff was going on with the podcast. So I was like, I'm just going to wait till it fixes itself, like till we get everything but it never got situated because that's just us. It's a bunch of people having a real life, and
Yeah.
it's
Busy.
not everybody's job. So we moved it over here, and I appreciate if people still get a chance to check out the previews and reviews. I think it was an interesting week because Deathbound looked like it had the juice, and I think that if a game doesn't do well, we have a tendency. I was joking about this yesterday. I hate the term trash because so when it comes to review, for instance, just to break this down, you've got like your never touch, your deep sale, your deep sale, and your wait and your buy. What that would be awesome if it was just all waiting. There was no buy rating. But when you look at it, for me,
I
it's
feel like
always
so
been
far
that
I'm
if a
doing pretty
game
good.
is a buy rating, it means whatever little
I'm at
problems you run
2K.
into won't overwhelmingly affect any of the things that you love. And then if it's a deep say, or if it's a wait for a sale, it means some of the issues that you may enjoy are slightly impacted. If it's a deep sale, the things you may enjoy could be majorly impacted, but you'll still get fun out of the game. And then you go all the way to a never touch, which truly means trash. It just means
All right, come
it's
on,
not
group up.
ready, it's
All
not
right, big
whatever.
damage.
Yeah.
So it's
Big damage.
very
Big
rarely
damage.
Broken or
Yeah, baby. Yeah,
and
baby.
Deathbound
Come
is
on.
one of those games that would be a deep sale because Deathbound has one of the coolest ideas that I've seen, which is ignoring all the crap where you have to go back to a bonfire to switch out your class or anything like that. Instead, you have those 4 classes in the lower left. Your classes are spirits that you get around the game world. And I'm going to switch over to some video you guys can
Whoa.
see while we do this. Now, this may not work because Johnny and I were a little late getting started, so our faces may be all weird here. They're not. Okay, good enough. We'll just do it that way. And so when you jump into this game, when you jump into Deathbound, it it is the most cumbersome game of its type I think I've played in eons. It has so many things to watch. So you have this little box on the left with your 4 different essences that you've captured, and you can get more, and you switch them out. And when you put those essences in the box, they can have friendships or disagreements that they may have with another person in the box, which isn't really explained, but it is sort of like putting together 4 friends and one friend is the odd man out compared to another friend. Sort of consider it that way. And those give you bonuses or strengths. The problem is they've also added other complexities onto it. For example, when you heal yourself, you hurt the other essences. Now, that might not sound like too bad of an issue, but when you're attacking somebody, not only are you burning stamina, it's giving you an indicator to tell you where your health will be if you're hit. So the stamina goes down, and then slowly the health
Yeah,
goes
baby.
down to
Big
show you
damage.
that's where it will be if you get hit because you've used stamina. But then after a bit of time, it raises up. But
Come on,
if you
switch.
swing, then the discoloration goes down farther, but the other bar has to take a bit to catch up to it.
Nice. Look
So
at that.
on one character,
Look at
you can
that.
see 3
Let's go.
discolorations going on at one time.
Oh God.
Then that's not all. Then if you heal, you're hurting them. Then there's other abilities that may come up in the game that can affect others as well. Then on top of that, they're
Oh, yeah.
dislikes and likes. So
Oh,
let's
yeah.
say you build up a
Oh,
character
yeah.
with
I'm
a
doing
good
great.
amount of
This
dexterity.
combo is
You buy a
amazing.
bunch
Let's
of
go.
stuff for these characters. You love them. You get a new character and you like that character. You could spend a couple hours upgrading a character,
Yep.
throw the new
Yep.
essence in, and the negative
Easy. Easy.
overrides the work you've done on the characters up until that
Come
point.
on.
So you could be working on stuff and be like, oh, this is great. And then put a thing and it's like
Ah.
negative 30% stamina. And you're
Come
like,
on.
what the shit? I just spent
Well,
3 hours grinding stamina. And
I
now
can
to
just hit
have this character
5K.
class I want. So
That would be huge.
that should be gone. I don't really
But
see
I don't
how
think I'm
that
gonna hit
pays off.
5K.
In fact, I think I would love just the bonuses
4
to be there
minutes.
and the negatives to be gone, because that's crushing, man. When you're working your way through a Dark Souls game, you get to the bottom, you find a character.
Never
you're
played
like,
Dark
"Man, this is
Souls,
great. I'm gonna grab this guy,"
which is
you
sad.
grab him, and then you start looking around in your little dealie, and you're all, "Oh no, none of these
Maybe one
moves
day.
fit what I want."
Maybe one day I'll get into
Then on
Dark
top
Souls.
of all of that, as you hit and do damage, you get a sync meter. Sync is like, imagine all these essences becoming a major warrior, and you can pull off special moves as well as an
Well,
ultimate
I don't
sync
know.
move.
I
The
might
problem is
get close to
that's a
5.
different bar and tracked in a different place, which is on the bottom. So if you have a slightly bigger screen, you legitimately, no hyperbole, are doing this the entire time.
Yeah. It sounds like so much to track too.
It is insane. I
On
was talking
top
to
of the
Fighting Cowboy
attacks and
after the
everything.
review, and he was like, dude, he's like, I love Dark Souls. That was insane. There was just everywhere in that. Then the inventory. Normally it's right and left on a digital pad. Maybe it's right and left bumper. Not this game. This game has you hit X to drink something, or hold X and tab a button to move to a different one. So in the middle of battle, you can accidentally hit X
Okay.
to drink
37.
something you don't even want to drink.
38.
Which pauses everything, and if it's health, hurts the people
We're doing pretty
that
good.
are not even in the game. So it is
Man.
it is so many things going on that
It sounds like a lot to manage.
It's
in real time.
insane. It's
Messed up.
insane. I didn't even notice some stuff until I looked at the footage later. When I looked at the footage later, I was like, oh my God, this was doing this to this other guy. And I wasn't even aware because I just didn't have the time or didn't look perfectly down when whatever it was adjusting. The other thing that sucks is every character has a sync move. These are moves where you can switch to another character. So let's say you're the warrior, you switch to the assassin character, maybe you have a special move that you can pull off when you switch. Weirdly enough, it's animation locked, meaning the only real way to pull it off in time is to not be doing anything. So you basically attack, pause,
Come on.
transfer, hit the attack button, and then do your special.
Come on,
Now,
hurry
I
up.
saw this
Hurry up.
complaint in the demo. I saw people complain about it, and I really did think it could be fixed, because I don't
NBC.
think that, in fact, that sort of negates the idea of these other classes, because really it just feels like these other classes, essences you have, just hurt everything. They don't feel like, instead of going, wow, I got another essence, you're like, wow, I got another essence. And now I got to juggle this shit on top of everything. You know, it's got a Hellgate London vibe, which is great. It's got some pretty, pretty mediocre sound. Voices were fine, but they're really caricatures, that kind of thing. In fact, a lot of the characters themselves were caricatures. But I gotta say,
Gosh,
guys,
it's so crazy.
it took it a step forward. The idea of having a party of classes is awesome. of all the thing I took out of this, it's that I want that. Like
Yeah,
that was
that's a
awesome.
cool
Yeah, not going back to your
iteration.
bonfire. You know how sometimes when you go back to your bonfire, you spend an hour and it feels like a Rocky montage where you're like lifting weights, switching out weapons, and then you come back as
Yeah.
a different guy. And we've joked about the bad guys going, how many times is, this guy just keeps coming back?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell? Telling their
I don't
friends,
know.
telling the ads, watch
So
out, man.
far, doing
This
pretty
guy's
good,
probably,
man.
we killed him, but he's probably
Doing
going to
really
come back.
good.
In this game, you can just do it right then.
Like
That was awesome.
I'm
Really
on
cool. And the
fire,
skills were a
bro.
bit
Oh
more
my
of the
gosh, I'm on
+1, or
fire.
not +1, but the plus to attack. That kind. They weren't.
Yeah.
They weren't
Like
grabbing.
I'm definitely pretty
But
close
the ideas sound, and I hope that the
of hitting
developer
5K.
doesn't, whatever. I hope they are able to fix this and then maybe look at a second go at this, because the ideas are sound. The level design is also pretty rough, so there's no jump, and they love their trees, especially in the first 2/3 of the game. And so there'll be a tree with a root you have to climb up. But if you're not exactly where you're supposed to be, you can't get up on that route. And then there's bad guys, like one guy called Dick Arms. That dude could attack you from like 50 feet away because he looked normal, but he was like Delsum in Street Fighter. His arms stretched.
Oh, dude. Yeah, yeah.
So you'd be way over here at the roots going, oh, fuck, let me up, let me up. And I was just screaming at the screen. I was like, let me up, because it looks like, it looks like everybody's knees have been fused in this game, because nobody apparently can bend them. And then you get to the edge, and just when you get up, they're like, and it does insane amounts of damage. And if you have any stamina that you've used, it's going to rip you down even farther to where that stamina bar is. Yeah, so it can be pretty rough. Bosses were okay. Game overall is it's not trash, and I'll use that term. I've used it before, 7 Days to Die Console Edition, and I will definitely use it in the future. But this one's more of your $5 to $10 test game, maybe. Check out the demo if it's still live. I think that would be a really good way of doing this one. But it's pretty rough,
Kind of
man.
like, do you remember Mortal Shell?
I do remember Mortal Shell.
Sort of
I
like
liked
a
Mortal Shell
B-level
way more
Souls.
than this, though.
It did.
Steel Rising, is that the other one with Mr. Roboto or Mrs. Roboto? Okay, so Steel Rising I like
Mrs.
better.
Roboto.
What's the other one? Liza P. You know me, I'm not a big fan of Liza P. Liked it better.
Not a huge
Liked it better. Forbidden, or what is it? Forgotten, Forbidden Lords or whatever.
Lords of the Fallen.
Lords of the Fallen, Forbidden Lords. It's always going to be stuck. That one I liked better too. So yeah, there's just going to be times where, you have issues like that when it comes to how the game plays and so forth. And it's just, it just wasn't for me. It wasn't really the greatest.
What it sounds like, and based on your review and stuff, they tried to iterate a lot and add a lot of systems on top of the idea of the genre.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what they missed is that you can't both have in mind all the enemy attacks and everything,
right?
Plus having a lot of complex systems to juggle on your side as a player.
Right.
Because when you look at like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, you actually don't have a ton of things to track on your side outside of the enemy attacks. You don't have complex combos. You got R1, R2, right? Or like jump R2. That's the most complex thing. That's it. You're not really doing. So it's not like Devil May Cry where you have these complex combo inputs and stuff. I like that you talked about the solo play as well, because a lot of other people didn't talk about the experience of playing without others. And I thought that was interesting. They don't have bots, do they? So you can't have.
They do have bots. That's I did. Do? Yeah. So that's what I was discussing. So there's a couple things. I don't know why. And we'll talk about this again. You guys know me. I don't do sponsored stuff. We don't do sponsored coverage like that. So I can say what I want to say. And they know that so that's why in mine, I did cover a bunch of the issues, because those issues are things that gamers need to sort of understand depending on how they're jumping into Space Marine. So when you look at Space Marine, basically you have your campaign,
big damage.
And you have an operations mode,
executioner,
and then you have a PvP mode, 6v6. All of them
Whoa.
are,
Oh,
well,
wrong thing.
PvP supposedly has bots. We didn't get a chance, but when you look at campaign and you look at the PvE modes, bots can leave and hop in depending on if people join you. The problem that I noticed, and I noticed it right away, is that, remember, first of all, this is the Spawn engine, WWZ. It is not Unreal, which
Can't
is what
stop
the
yawning.
original game was made on. So, not to be rude, but WWZ, which I love, has some issues with bots and how it works. Some of them are great, but in certain circumstances, they're not great. One of the things I noticed with this, and it definitely popped up for me, was that if I was in a boss battle, that boss didn't give a shit about anybody but me. And so we're talking all the way across the level. I mean, this boss was like hundreds of yards away. I would just see them spamming attacks as they came towards me, and I was like, God damn it, they don't care about anybody else, which then makes it hard to pull off your combos or your moves to kill ads and so forth. So what I did was I concentrated on the boss. The problem is, or the good thing about this boss is, he's tough. He's tough. He's got, I think I counted it, it's 5 general attacks, then a unparryable, dodge attack that you need to do. Then he has an area of ground, or area of effect attack,
Effect.
which is
Yep.
completely separate. And the bots, the only time that boss really attacked those bots is when I was down. So what does that mean? That means when they're trying to heal you, they attack, or they get attacked. And so there became this like resurrection loop that kept happening, where you almost
Yeah.
get up and they get jostled and then they try to heal you. Was it ruinous? No, it wasn't. But it was something that I wish more people had covered, because it was right there. And the thing about Space Marine, there's going to be a ton of people who want to play this by themselves, a massive number
Yeah.
of people who are going to want to play this by themselves and not want to go in with other. It's just not even, in fact, I would say most of the people I'm talking to want to do their first playthrough probably by themselves, just without anybody getting in their way. That is something they need to balance, and that's why I wanted to make that clear. And I was a little disappointed, because it was like people were, oh yeah, this, that, blah blah blah, and it's like, dude, that's a big deal, if not one of the biggest deals. The
Yeah,
other
I didn't
thing
see
I
it
had
covered,
was,
man.
yeah,
Too
either did
much.
I. One of the things I also was bothered by was, I couldn't find an option to turn off people joining. So while I was trying to capture footage, some jackass would jump into the game. And I was like, okay, that's going to be an issue, because if a person does, again, want to do it alone, they don't want a random jumping in. And I couldn't find any network adjustments that said, don't allow randoms in. The only thing I
Private.
did see was crossplay was on, which was great. Yeah, so I turned it off to minimize the number of people jumping in. The shooting, everything feels great. The Tyranids are coming at you. That all feels great. But I think it's really easy to look at it and see all these Tyranids and go, oh man, it looks awesome. But somebody like myself, who spends an inordinate amount of time with World War Z,
See, I
there
think
is
some of my issue
certainly an
too is
issue
like the
with World War
accuracy.
Z and how it plays, and the zombies and the overlap here. If somebody plays World War Z a lot and then
I wonder if it
plays
should be
this,
like,
there
I
is
wonder
going
if
to
it
be a
should
thought
change it
process,
to
I
like
think, for
more
a
of a
lot of
DP
people
build.
where they feel like it's a little bit, a little bit, like, I don't want to say it's a mod, because it's not, but there'll be
Just
people who
reminiscent
feel
of
that it's
that
reminiscent of a mod. Yeah.
formula.
Yeah. I absolutely can see that. I can see that coming up. And it feels to me like that's something that we're just going to have to we're going to have to sort of track to see if that becomes an issue and that more people have problems with it, but I noticed it right away. Just one of those things.
Yeah, I think those things are really important. If you can't play, let's say you want to play with a friend,
Hmm.
and only the two of you,
Right.
because you want to go at your own pace, you don't want a third person throwing things off.
Hmm.
That's a problem if you can't do that, in my opinion. And similarly, if
Yeah.
you want to play solo, there you need to have the same access to options as if you play in co-op.
Right.
And that includes the resurrection stuff you talked about. That includes juggling aggro with
Hmm.
other players.
Hmm.
If you can't do that without other people,
Right.
that's, yeah, that's a problem as well.
Yeah, I just don't really understand, when it comes to the options I saw. The options I saw were a little, they were questionable. They were like,
Mm,
why exactly are we doing this? Why is this the
yeah,
plan for your options? What exactly are you hoping to get out of this? And who knows, man? It may turn around and be one of those things where like it completely fixes itself and I understand it better. But right now there were enough issues where I was like, huh. Now dislike it? No, not even close. Like I'm not going to sit there and go, "Oh, this is unfun." It was an absolute blast, but there were definitely issues with it that I think people probably just need to look at and figure out if that's maybe you want to look at it and decide to play with friends just so you don't have to worry about it. Are you going to play it with friends?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope to get together with some of you guys in the Discord. You know, it seems like a good game to jump in with different people and get different groups and stuff.
Yeah. On the other hand, there was enough customizations to like choke a horse.
And it sounds like the gameplay loop itself you liked a lot, right?
Yeah, I
Just
like the
getting in
gameplay
there,
loop. Yeah, yeah, it felt good.
getting the reps in.
Yeah, it was fun to just run around, do stuff, take out some bad guys, try to figure out exactly what I needed for the upgrades. The upgrades are in lots of 7. So basically you have so there's like 6 or 7 armor pieces, and they all unlock for the most part in lots of in mission successful missions, unfortunately, but missions of 7 successes. So 7, 14, 21, that kind of thing. But what's interesting is one may start at 1 and the other may start at 4. So one would be 4, 11, and
Huh.
then 18.
Yeah.
The other would be 1, 7 or 1, 8, that kind of stuff. So you're always, it felt to me like you were always unlocking something, that there was always something you were able
Well,
to
that's
do.
nice.
And are they long, the missions? So you say 7 wins.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
nice that you have something
what, an
unlocked.
hour?
PvE missions, depending on difficulty,
Some,
not an
something
hour.
to strive for.
No, not an
Okay.
hour. More like 30 to 40 minutes. And then there were a couple places where there were, I guess what you would call them is infinite spawns in a way, where there was like
Okay.
spawn, where you could sit if you wanted. It felt like there was 1 or 2 that were infinite spawns because it was like open this door, and if I didn't open it, it kept saying incoming wave, incoming wave, incoming wave. So maybe there's some grind that you could do in those spots, but it all depends because you're going to get people who play this just like World War Z, who play it so many times and so often that they're able to ignore any kind of extra stuff and just blast through the level and get those successes quick. I would
Man,
say
your health
I
goes
think
down
I had 2
so quick. You're not
failures
paying
at
attention.
first, and then from that point on, it was pretty much successful. There was 1 or 2. Well, that boss, I died. Yeah, twice. I died twice to him. The other one was a much easier ending. So yeah, we were able to show 2 levels of the PVE or of the PVE. I think there were 6. The first one, pretty simple. I felt that like you could get through it pretty easily. The second one with that boss, that was a little bit more rough because by the time you got to him, you might be a little beat up, and then
Yeah.
just he's huge and he apparently hates you, like just you and no one else.
Yeah.
It was really odd.
Specifically.
Yeah. But graphically, man, there's so many chapters to unlock, so many weapons to unlock, relics, colors, all kinds of stuff. So there's
Are
always
there like
things that you can
skills
get.
and stuff, like a skill tree or something? Or is it more around
Yep.
the weapons?
Yep, there's skill
Okay.
trees. There's skill trees, yeah. And the skill trees are done in a way where one is unlocked every single level.
Kind of random, but I
every
wonder
single
how
level for every single class.
Path of
But
Exile's doing still with the new
they
expansion.
don't have to be bought. They're just unlocked. So their availability is unlocked, which is nice because a couple skills I don't want. Like one was sort of a glass cannon thing, plus 10, minus 10, and I hate that shit.
Ooh.
Like that's not for me.
Oh, yeah.
I would rather zero out and just build and take the hit. And so that's what I did. I took the hit on that character and was like, I'm just not going to buy that skill. So you just sort of have to decide, what you want to do from there. I would say that it's got enough unlocks and stuff like that to keep pretty much anybody busy, but it is a bit like World War Z in the fact that I could see some people playing through it a couple times and then, you'll die out on the grind. Like, you might just decide like, why grind it? I'm not gonna worry about that kind of thing. So it all depends on how it goes. It depends on what exactly somebody wants to do with that. But overall, it's been highly enjoyable. You know what I can do? I can actually stop the stream if you want, and we can, because I'm recording, and then we
Yeah,
can just
we can
upload
just
this.
record it.
Yeah, guys, it says it's fine on my end if you can hear me, but it is definitely not fine on YouTube's end, and it just says that it's not getting any data at all now, even though apparently it is. So I'm just going to drop this, and we'll post it at the very end. No big deal. But yeah, so I would say overall, to me, it feels like a game that people are going to enjoy, but it just may not be may not be for everybody when it comes to the grind. It just depends. And the difficulty goes up in scales. So like your normal is level 1 through 5, meaning it sort of says we suggest your level 1 through 5 here. And then it's like
Okay.
second one I think is 6 to 10, and then 10 to 15. It does that kind of thing. I did try a higher difficulty, and it was ridiculously hard when I wasn't the
Ooh.
right level. Yeah, there was a spawn when I went to the hardest that was infinitesimally more difficult than I expected. It was just all absolute badasses that just did not care. They ruined me. It was the bone sword carrying Tyranids, and there were a ton of them. It went from like some ads and one or two of those to just those
Yeah.
guys and a bunch of them, and I just got smoked. Like it was ridiculous. Not even close to
Ridiculous.
doable for me at that time. Um, did you see any coverage you had questions about for that game in particular, or any questions about it that you had?
I think I was trying to compare it mentally to something like Helldivers,
Hmm.
where people go in and they, just endlessly play the game. A lot of people do. Does it feel that replayable to you?
I would say it feels replayable to me because I like Space Marines, and it feels like they're going to add a bunch. It again,
Okay.
I feel like some people may end up feeling towards this like they felt towards, um, what do you call it? Towards World War Z, because it does. I mean, it is built on that engine, so the movement and everything feels familiar. If you've done WWZ, feels very familiar in that way. So yeah,
Okay.
overall still enjoyable. Great graphic. Well, yeah, really good graphics. It ran really well. Ran better in the stream. Like it was running with all those enemies on screen. It was well over 100 FPS almost the entire time. Now this is a 4090, but the reason why I mention that is because, to me at least, that indicates a very high level that I can pretty easily pare down and look at what cards will do what and what settings and how they'll be able to run with particular cards. And I don't see any issue there with like people, being
That's
able
great
to
because
play it.
they got huge like
All right,
numbers
30
of
more
enemies on
minutes.
screen, right?
Mhm.
Just like
30 more
World War
minutes.
Z.
Yep.
Like you said, it's the same engine. So they're doing that similar thing, which is really cool.
The only similar thing that I think some people are going to be sort of shocked about is so in World War Z, zombies will go against a wall and then they'll climb up the wall and they'll like
Yeah.
scrabble up the wall. The identical thing happens here. And there's something about that I saw and I was like, I bet, even though that's exactly, to me at least, what would happen with the Tyranids, like I look
Makes
at it, I'm like,
sense.
that makes
Yeah.
sense. There were times where you'd come into a level and you could tell that level was going to have that setup. You'd come to a level, there'd be a dais, there'd be like a platform with sheer walls, and you'd be like, bad guys are going to come towards me, and I'm going to stand up
Yep.
here and I'm going to plink away at their base. But again, if it's not broken, don't fix it. It does feel different because you're not going against the orcs. And I think for a lot of people, the orcs were a big deal. To a lot of people, the orcs were like the special part, the thing that they loved the most was, and so switching out away from orcs might cause some uh, people have a little bit of uh, culture shock in a way because the original played, even at its busiest, played with some finesse. This one is not about finesse. It's much more about going absolutely balls out, smashing people, and just going incredibly hard on everything that you do in the game. There's no, it just doesn't have the same, it just doesn't have the same feeling of it's not finesse. That's not right for a Space Marine. It doesn't have that same fidelity to each individual character you fight and their attacks. It's much more anarchy, just pure
Yeah.
chaos going on. So, but
Pure
yeah, good. It was
chaos.
fun. I didn't really have any issues with it at all that I can even speak of. I would say for the most part, it ran exactly the way it was supposed to. And oh, the stutter. So every level, not Unreal stutter, nothing like that, because it's not that engine. It had this very odd, really long pause, about 2 to 3 seconds, and then went smooth. It was smooth prior, smooth after. So
That
that's a
was
glitch.
weird.
That's a
Huh.
software thing. That is, it has nothing to do with nothing. It appeared on two different machines. So that was just a thing that occurred. It wasn't something that you really have to sit back and be like, oh my God, there's some huge issue with this or anything like
Yeah.
that. It was just, okay, this is a beta, technically. I would say beta. It's not completed yet, not fully done yet. So moving on from, unless you have anything else for Space Marine.
No, I think that's it. I'm excited to try it. We'll
Yeah.
talk more about it when we
Yeah,
do.
it was a blast. I just hope people's expectations are in line with what we get. Speaking of that and expectations, Black Ops 6, the zombies, they released some video. There were some more articles released. I think IGN did a video where they covered it. And I got to say, man, I don't know. Call of Duty sort of calling my name, man. I don't know if you got
Uh-oh.
to see the video, and I didn't post a podcast thing because I didn't have the internet when I was trying to post our podcast questions topic. But
Whoa, whoa,
yeah,
whoa.
dude, I don't know, man. Call of Duty
That's what
is
would wake
not
me
my
up.
bag usually. Not usually, but I will say they always offer something. And it feels like they are offering enough that I might jump into this one. I mean, it's Game Pass, right? Like
Yep.
that's the big thing. It's Game Pass. I don't
I'm
know.
looking at it right now. It looks really cool the way they're showing it.
Game
Yeah, I
Pass?
mean, to me, the way
Call
it's
of
coming
Duty
off,
is on the
it's
Game
a
Pass
lot
now?
of really good
Or is
ideas
that
that
just the
instead of feeling
zombies is on the Game Pass?
pacey or piecemeal, they feel like like, you
It
know,
has to be just the
nailed,
zombies, I
like
would
they
assume.
understand what they're trying to
Yeah.
do. So far with zombies, some people get into it just for zombies, other people get into it for other reasons. I get into it for a little bit of everything. And single player, which I love, you know, America kind of videos, those are
Yeah.
or kind of games, those are awesome to me. But yeah, it looked, I mean, super enjoyable from what I've seen. But you're not, what was the last Call of Duty you played, do? Like
I don't know. I think Modern
Warfare
Warfare,
2?
the
Or
sci-fi one.
yes, oh, Infinite Warfare.
Oh,
Wow, the very first
Damn.
one? It's been
Yeah,
that
that's a long
long?
yeah,
time
it's
ago.
been a while. But
Yeah.
Jeez.
actually,
You never
this looks
played
up my
MW2,
alley
bro?
because this mode is
Dude,
the only one that
MW2 is
I've
like
been,
the GOAT.
excited about. It's
Hmm.
just that I don't know if it was ever free to
Literally.
access
MW2
in
was the
prior
GOAT of
versions,
GOATs
or
Mm,
if
when
you
it came
had
to
to
Call of
pay.
Duties.
I think you've always
Uh,
had to pay. Well,
yeah,
for the main, not
for,
zombies.
at
That's
least for the main.
yeah,
Yeah,
for
I
the
don't
main.
know about zombies, but the price of entry was always pretty high. A
Right.
kind of a full Blizzard game, and yeah, now that it's on Game Pass, it's a lot easier to get into. So this is something I could see myself playing if we
The
get people interested.
the number of people who are mentioning that they want to play this because it's on Game Pass is really high too.
Yeah,
Like it is like I don't know how that's all going to work out financially for them if they feel that they're not, what it's going to do, but if it catches on MP wise, there's going to be one of two ways. A person is continually subscribed and you have to be subscribed for like what, 3 months to equal the cost of the game, or they turn around and buy it, which they get the cost of the game anyway. Like it feels to me like this might be a
Could be a
great litmus
win-win
test.
either way.
And it makes me also wonder if Microsoft sat down and looked at this game for a great deal of time, where it was, how far along it was, to decide if this was going to be, how they were going to go forward with Game Pass, because there's some confidence that it feels like they're exuding more so than in prior um, Call of Duty games. It just, something about it looks good. What about the movement? I think the movement looks awesome. The new fluid movement thing that they do. There's like
I need to
have
watch a
adjusted
trailer on
movements,
that.
a little less kiddie. It's a little bit more realistic, but still
Maybe after
seems
this, I'll
fast.
watch a video of the
It just
movement.
seems really
yeah, it
enjoyable.
looks really polished, really polished. I'm very interested in
And then did you also see Splitgate 2?
checking it
They
out.
showed some people playing Splitgate 2.
Dude, I
Ooh, no.
really don't
So
want to get on
did
back
you
into
ever
playing Call of
check out
Duty.
Splitgate?
No.
Dude, Splitgate, I think it was Azerlin, myself, Takedown. Maybe at that time it was Abzi or Reg. Splitgate was the game
Okay.
where you could put portals up and jump through your own portals like Portal, but
Yeah.
you could do it yourself.
Gotcha.
And it looks like they basically said, okay, one was a test. We did okay with it, but we want to blow this out of the water. So they've got factions in Splitgate too. It looks phenomenal from what I've seen. And it plays
Kind of like a Halo with portals.
yeah,
Type-
but it plays way closer to Unreal Tournament, like the ones I used to
Oh.
talk about all the time. It feels like
Yeah.
it sort of nailed it.
Fast.
Yeah. I know you're not necessarily a big shooter fan, but to me it just, it looks
Yeah, no,
super
it
exciting.
is cool.
I love my
I
shooters,
haven't gotten into
even
a
though I
lot of
don't
these
play them
games,
as much
but
anymore.
I'm always excited to try new ones.
Do you do shooters with controller, or do you do shooters with
Controller,
I've
100%.
always
and
done
keyboard?
mouse. Yeah.
Yeah, best
for-
way to
for
do it
this
for
type of
somebody who's
thing.
just going to jump in. Keyboard can feel pretty rough, especially if you're new and you jump in. It can feel even more rough. How's the
Yeah,
keyboards
I've
work on the
always
Final Fantasy MMO?
always been
I don't know, honestly. I've never
a
tried it
controller shooter.
with. Oh wait, keyboard? Do you
Sorry, I
mean
meant to
like?
say gamepad. You were thinking correct. I meant to say gamepad.
Okay, okay. I know it's very good, but I haven't tried it myself.
Gotcha. You've all done keyboard on that one the entire time?
Yep, just keyboard.
I'm loving seeing more and more games are trying to figure out how to get even the complex ones on, gamepad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's good with a
yeah. We've
controller.
seen some ideas like the wheel in Baldur's Gate. Where you could customize it.
Mhm.
I think that's sort of the right direction. I want to see it. So you can customize it because some stuff you're gonna use all the time, and others are every blue moon, right?
Right. I also
So I
love
think that makes sense.
with the dials. It just you can see it. It's right there. It feels like I feel like Baldur's Gate did a really good job with that. I actually enjoyed my time with gamepad on Baldur's Gate. I thought it worked
Yeah,
out really
I
well.
think their HUD it needs a bit of iterating on.
Yeah.
It's a bit busy. It's a bit hard to parse.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you get the hang of everything, is great.
Um, moving on from there, what else do we got? We have
I had one question for
yeah,
you though
go for it.
about Call of Duty. Do you, do you have any read on how well it's doing compared to others? So this is the first Game Pass Call of Duty. I'm curious,
Like
That's-
what
pre-orders
the
and stuff.
reception has been. Yeah, do you know
That's
any
kind of
numbers
cool
or
though that
any
they're putting it
like
on Game
if
Pass. I didn't know they were
populars are
doing
doing
that.
well?
Huh?
I mean, SEO and like hype factor, it's high.
How much is Game Pass?
So,
Okay.
but all Call of Duties, it feels like all Call of Duties have that inborn into their very nature to be hyped. And then they come and they get either, celebrated as like, hey, this is great, or just trashed. So
Yeah.
just, something about it people don't like. But this one looks pretty status quo. I haven't really seen any, but I haven't checked. Like I haven't sat there and really run numbers and like dived in to see.
I think the most I've heard is the zombies stuff.
That's what I've
been
heard most
hearing
of.
it
Yeah.
now, like quite a bit of excitement about that.
Yeah, definitely. I did want to talk a little bit about because this was popped up after I posted the Star Wars Outlaws. There was a video that I guess German outlets or somebody was sent to see. I haven't followed this super closely. We talked about a little bit about it last Friday, but basically, some people were asked to show their video to Ubisoft prior to the preview going live or something. And then there was also a thing about people sent to Disneyland or something. But I want to say, as you guys notice in every one of my videos, I say, that's not what we do. We don't do that kind of stuff. I don't, if there's a trip to go on, I pay for it, which has caused issues because companies don't know how to handle, because if they pay for it, they probably feel like they can ask you to go to events. And I'm like, no, I don't want to go to that event. I paid for it. So, there were things I've been able to skip that I think that they weren't super happy with. They never said they were super unhappy with it, but it's like, hey, would you like to go to this?
Makes
And I'm like,
sense.
no, I wouldn't. But I want to point that out because I still got people on the thing going, oh, you got sent to Disneyland. First of all, I wouldn't go to Disneyland ever. Second of all, I wouldn't go anywhere on somebody's dime ever. That's just not what the channel's about. The channel, like, I just
So
don't.
Disneyland is so random too. Like,
The entire thing's random because, like, the idea of going to Disneyland for Star Wars, I guess maybe I don't know, maybe there's a Star Wars Disneyland event or something, like
yeah,
Pirates of the
now
Caribbean.
it's Disney.
Caribbean, yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
but no, we don't do that, and I won't do that. If somebody comes along and there's a sponsor I really like, you might hear me read something in a video, but it's never happened. So I don't know if that will ever happen. But go to an event.
Yeah.
I don't want to. I don't want to be involved in that. I started the channel. This is what bothers me a little bit. The other thing that bothers me is that I don't know why, but I think people assume that PAX and Gamescom E3 prior weren't paid. Like, this is why I started the channel, to be anti-paid. Those are still being paid for. I know somebody who just got their entire flight to Gamescom paid for by a company who wants them to see their game. So, like, I don't get why people are just randomly popping into this thinking this is a one-off. Anybody you see covering events, they're getting access
Previews,
to codes, they're
like
getting
preview events,
all that. So if you have a problem with this, which you should, because I don't like this, I don't like this kind of stuff at all. And you should never have somebody ask to see your footage first. The only time I've had that
Yeah,
one
that's
time
kinda
was they were
weird.
worried about spoilers, and they just wanted me to cut out something from a spoiler. That was it, which I think is fair, even
Yeah, that
though I
makes sense.
don't like it. I was like, all right, but they, it's so rare. Well, just that's one time out of 1,000 videos. But yeah, it's an odd thing. You don't have to worry about this channel. I'm not gonna ever do it. I started the channel where I buy the games and I pay for trips if we go, and we pretty much put a kibosh on every trip, which I know hurts us. But I mean, the same thing with podcast guests. I know of paid for podcast guests. So I think everybody thinks everybody's just like randomly showing up, and it's like there's there's always a
A lot more to it than that.
Yeah,
there's
there's a
always
market
something
for
going
that.
on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Catch.
I don't quite understand it's if you're going to have an issue with this, which, and again, you should have probably the same issues I do with how the entire system is structured. Which is
Yeah,
why I don't engage in it, and I won't. Otherwise I'd be at Gamescom. Well, no, I still
yeah,
wouldn't.
I
I still
think
wouldn't go to Gamescom.
that's a respectable stance. I do respect people who accept money as long as they're transparent about it. You know, some people are good about saying, "Listen, we got invited. You know, we were excited. We flew in, and we had
Nope.
a great time." I like people kind of straight up tell you like that's in the mix with what we're saying here. What I find a bit more questionable is the people who go through mental hoops uh, to to tell you that they're not biased, and they're saying, "Yeah, I got invited here, but you know, I don't have a bias. I'm contractually obligated to tell you my honest thoughts." All these like mental gymnastics that people try to do to prove to you that they are
All right.
unbiased.
15 more
I would
minutes.
rather them just admit, like, listen, there's something
15
in the
more
mix
minutes.
here. You know, I got paid a nice trip and I had a great time. Just so you know, fair.
I don't think it's fair, and I don't agree. But I
Fair.
respect what you're saying, and it's probably our age difference. It's probably the number of experiences I have, but I do not like that, and I don't think that that's cool. And it's probably because I mean, studying consumer psychology, the first thing you realize is if even a dollar changes hands, something adjusts, something does adjust. And there's whether it be a psychological debt where you feel there's a slight debt. People ask me why. I mean, I got somebody who was dinging on me hard for, like I told you last week, reviewing Flintlock poorly. They were like, you
Yeah.
rated it poorly, did that cause an issue? And I'm like, why would it cause an issue? Like, those guys know. I reviewed Ashen. When there is nothing that hangs over my head, I can say whatever I want, and they can also ignore me in whatever they want. They can also say you were wrong on this. Like, that's the freedom there. Instead of saying, "Hey, we paid you and you did," like, that's weird, man. I don't know. I don't accept it. But I get that you do. I would say if I had 10 videos in front of me and 5 of them said ad and 5 didn't, the 5 that didn't would be watched before, if
Yeah.
not solely compared to the ones that were added or sponsored. And this kind of
No, I
stuff is
agree
going
with
on
you.
in
Yeah.
a crazy amount. So,
I do value that. But at the very least, I want people to be honest about, you know, what they got going into it.
yeah.
Because what I dislike is that dishonesty when people are pretending they can be 100%
Yeah.
unbiased, you know,
Right.
when they got a trip paid or when they got a bunch of like,
You know
cool
what would be
things.
a nice way of doing it, and something even I wouldn't have an issue with, is like if some event happened, calling the video something other than a preview or a review, somehow coming up with a term that indicates this is just
Yeah.
coverage. Like in all honesty, let's say it was Space Marine. You could say Space Marine 2 coverage video number 1. Where then it's like you're not, because even a preview, people will get on you and say, I've had people be like, well, why didn't you report a ton of issues with the preview? And I'm like, this is a year before the game's coming out. Like,
Yeah.
technical issues are not that crazy. You should expect that there will be technical issues. So yeah, I don't think there's a fine line, but I think currently there's a very fine line. And you and I have joked around that just because we talk about it on this podcast or what have you, doesn't mean that the majority seems to care, you know,
Even
for the
about
most
those
part,
terms,
even about those
what's a
terms.
preview, what's a review. A lot of people don't take it seriously. They
Yeah.
release something called a review, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
laughable. Like
Yeah.
they covered 10% of the game, you
Yeah.
know, and they played even less of that,
Yeah.
probably.
Speaking of weird coverage, so Bungie, there was all the stuff, the layoffs that happened, and then this morning, Jason Schreier had stated something along the lines of that the ideas, the current thinking towards Marathon is pretty negative internally, that it's not doing quite well, and that there's a lot of negativity, or
What's
maybe not
Marathon?
negativity,
Is
but
that like a new game or
there's
something?
a worry that it's not where it needs to be and stuff like that. And you and I've talked about that. Like, it's interesting to me that these IP names are being taken, and then the game that we get isn't really connected to the IP. You could go so far back as Prey and say that, well, why was
Yeah.
it called Prey when it wasn't? Okay, but when I played the game, I was like, there is some prey involved. Like whether it be the Typhons and them after you, or what have you. But if you call something Halo, and then there's no Halo in it, you know, at some point you're like, why are we using this IP? And I think with Marathon, it felt to me like no one knew what Marathon should even be. It's like, oh, we're making a Marathon game, and then you have people go and check it out, and they're like, this game is, it's not Marathon, it's not Halo, it's not anything, it's a completely different thing. And it's like, well, then why call it Marathon other than the
I
IP
really,
name, which is,
I think that even for something like Assassin's Creed that
yeah,
saw a before and after,
yeah,
you know, Origins, right? Very, very different type of game, gone full like RPG
right,
versus the more action based. I think even there was a respect to the original kind of identity, at the very least aesthetically, right? Of the assassin and the archetype of the character and everything. That was a lot more in keeping with the tradition, at the very least,
yep,
in some fundamental way. And with
Oh my
Marathon, I
goodness.
don't think we've
Oh,
seen
hold
enough
on.
to know. But
Hold on.
yeah,
that's
we're not
completely
seeing a
fair.
ton that has
I think I'm currently at
identity
like
in it
15K.
tied to the
So I might
original
I
stuff.
might get
Yeah,
close.
I think that's completely fair. I think that
Like
is
I think I'm
that's a
definitely gonna
good
get
way
above
of putting it, is
17.
that the identity currently seems lost.
So that's kind of hype.
That
Yeah.
we can't figure out exactly what the identity,
It almost
what it
reminds
is.
me. Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say, reminds me of that book called "Start with Why." It was like a popular, uh, uh, I think it's like a self-help book. You know, the idea is you start with why, and then you kind of, everything flows from there. And
Mhm.
that, I feel like we don't have the why for the game. It's
Absolutely.
almost like we see the how, we see the method, what they're trying to do, how they're doing it, but we don't see what's the inspiration, what's the vision. You know, where's it coming from? What's the core that again links back to something recognizable?
Yeah. No, that's a
Ooh,
good point of why.
man, I tell you, your
And
health chunks
Yeah,
so quickly if you're
with
not paying
Prey, we
attention.
found out later that they were supposedly asked to name it Prey, and again, at least there was some tangible connection. But I do get that a lot of people were bothered.
hmm
And the same thing, at least it was, they were both, first person kind of, shooter games. But here, we don't even really know what Marathon's going to be, and it does. It just feels like,
You're just
and I
gonna run
think in
run a
2024,
marathon.
2025, this is definitely going to continue, where people are just under the impression that they can get an IP and that will solve all their problems. Oh, we're doing a Wolverine game. By the way, I'm just saying that. I don't have anything against that game. I
Okay, I
actually
was
am
gonna
really excited.
ask,
Yeah.
do we know
But
something there? What's
no,
going
it's
on?
just these IP borrowings that you're like, why? Why,
Yeah.
and I get why, as in that one extra safety net. But I think the current thinking in the game industry appears to be, if it is awesome looking and new, it gets a little bit more heat and acceptance than if it's awesome looking and named or in the same vein as something else, because then people start comparing it
Mhm.
to the old thing. They start going, oh, well, this is a different voice actor, or this is a different this, or, you're changing this, or you're doing this. And pretty soon you actually get the negativity versus
Yeah.
just a positive game that looks good. And people are like, wow, I want to see whatever this thing is. And it doesn't have the weight, because an IP can lift you up and it can also weigh you down. And it feels like that's what's happening with Marathon, is it's getting weighed down
You know,
tremendously.
I go back and forth on that idea because at times I feel like what we see as the reaction from people
Mm,
is a lot different from what people do in terms of their money. So, in other words, we may see
Right.
that knee-jerk reaction in the social media and our discords and everything, of people complaining and
Mm-hmm.
comparing to the old,
Right.
but the way they act with their money, with their wallet, is they're buying it because it is that IP. So
Yeah.
sometimes I feel there's a gap or a disconnect between what the apparent reaction is versus like people are still buying it. You know what I
Yep.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah, and you never know. I mean, we've seen it, and you've seen it in your Discord. I've seen it in mine. The same thing can happen where somebody will say, "Oh, I don't like the idea of this game," and then 2 days later, you see them on Steam
They're
Friends
playing it.
playing the game, and you're all,
Yeah.
that happened. I don't know if you remember and I think this might have turned out to be untrue, but it's certainly true in its spirit. I believe it was one of the Call of Duties where people are like, "I'm not going to play this," and there was a big hubbub and a bandwagon sort of ban for it. And then those people who were saying they weren't going to play, somebody
They
took
end
a
up playing
picture
it.
and showed everybody playing it. And you're like, and by the way, you can
Makes
ignore
sense.
that if that one turned out to be true, because I feel like that one was sort of kiboshed. I've seen it with so many games, man, so many games. And if a game is slightly cheaper, you'll see it.
Yeah.
I mean, on the other hand, too, I go to a meal and I might not like the main course, but I might like the sides. I might go back to that place
Yeah.
just for the sides. So maybe there's something to be said about the gray area of acceptance versus bitching, where the bitching happens, but then the acceptance at some point is like, well, this is,
Outweighs the.
yeah, this is all I've got. Like if everybody's playing it and I want to play with everybody else and I like some parts of it, I guess I'll, you know,
Yeah.
I guess I'll,
All right, 5 more
sort of
minutes.
bite the bullet on that one.
5
Yeah, it's
more
interesting,
minutes.
man. Marathon just confusing me. And I haven't heard anything positive behind the scenes either. Like, and I'm not saying that they're negative. I'm saying there's confusion. There's sort of
Yeah.
this almost meandering idea of even what they're trying to do and a confusion there internally too. There's a confusion. So, and that seems to be mimicked by what we saw with, like what they did, the Destiny guys, a bunch of the high end Destiny guys left. They have now integrated a bunch of people into Sony. And we said this, what, probably just a couple months after Sony bought Bungie. I was like, if this doesn't work, expect to see them sucked into Sony. Like, expect any big company would probably do that after a while because they're a separate company and they did pay a lot, but and I thought that they were going to do really well, overall because it's Destiny.
Ah,
But I don't know if you saw last year. I think they missed their revenue.
man, I
Looks
really
like
like
something like
Destiny.
50+%.
Oof.
So it
Wow.
seems like
That's a
Destiny
That's a
was doing this and then
that's a
just
big
suddenly
oof.
did this,
Wonder why.
which I don't know why.
Hmm.
Like I don't follow Destiny enough. And you don't play Destiny at all, right? I mean,
No,
We need
but
we need
that
Destiny
surprises me
3.
to hear because I thought the reception was pretty good to the last
it was
DLC.
actually, that was one of the things that shocked me is the reception was great to the last DLC, but I think a lot of people were burned from prior DLCs. And then when I was talking to a Moodski in our Discord who plays all the time or used to, even he on the new one was like, "Okay, yeah, it is good, but that's about it. Like it's good, and then the core problems with Destiny haven't been repaired, you know." Moving on from there, I saw some news before we jumped in here that shocked me, but didn't shock me. Dead Rising's new version that's coming out will no longer reward players for taking erotic pictures in game. So I don't know if you ever played this, but the original Dead Rising, you are a war photographer. So it's about a person going to a town that's infected with zombies and taking war photos and then
Huh.
fighting them as the storyline progresses. But you used to
Interesting.
be able to take all these pictures. So, like, for example, if somebody's fallen off a building, you take a picture, it'll be like brutality because somebody's dying, and it'll give you points for that. And those points let you level up in the game. And you used to be able to take pictures of the women in like where they were standing, and it'd be like erotica. It would give you the little erotica,
But
but it's been
were
removed.
they naked or something, or
Never naked.
just?
No, 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 no.
Okay, okay,
Huh.
okay.
No, it's a Capcom Resident Evil light kind of thing. So some of the women are
Okay,
really
yeah,
vamped up. You know,
a
you
bit
don't.
pervy, a
Yeah,
bit,
you don't get
yeah.
the 8 foot vampire mama or anything, but you get that. Like one of the first characters you see in the first game is a pretty vamped up look. I mean, like definitely high level hotness character, and I'm sure a lot
Yeah,
of people are taking pictures of her butt. I'm just off the top of my head. I'm just assuming, and
makes
I
sense.
I thought it was funny. The idea of it being removed was a little weird, but not weird. They adjusted the butt camera in Mass Effect with
Oh
it
my
Yeah,
on
gosh.
one of the cutscenes.
yes.
So Capcom doesn't seem like that kind of company. I felt that, but a game mode where you're just taking pictures, or not a game mode, but in a game where a majority of your side events is taking pictures, I could see him removing it just to be like, in the current day and status. I don't like it, but I also didn't play it. But I also find it like you could have left it in with no issue, especially because they're only announcing it now. This has been announced as coming for a while. There's been previews of it. So to just now say you can't do it was a little weird because it's like, oh, that's interesting. You didn't announce that when it first came out.
It is pretty strange. In a lot of their games, they have like
They're vamped up.
skimpy
Oh yeah.
women,
Yeah.
like Monster Hunter World, the handler is always like, right?
Yep.
Um,
One more minute.
Didn't
Devil
even
May
Dark
Cry, a
Souls
lot of these.
technically wasn't one of the characters in your camp Elden Ring? One of the characters in your camp in Elden Ring is pretty sporty, isn't she? Like an anime looking. I feel like one of the
In
characters
Elden
there.
Ring,
In Elden Ring, one of the characters at your base. For some reason, I felt that one of the characters there was pretty vampy, but I could be wrong.
in the base, but a couple of the witches are a bit,
Yeah.
a bit sexualized.
A little
But
goth.
dude, like Devil May Cry, like one of the female characters is almost fully naked, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, we're definitely getting into that weird time where the choices that are made are going to seem arbitrary for some, and they're going to seem on purpose in a bad way for others, and they're going to seem on purpose in a good way for others, which means no one will agree. No one's going to agree.
yeah.
Like it's just not going to happen if you remove and they're going to have to balance the game differently because those pictures leveled you up and now you can't take those pictures. So now they got to figure out, do brutalities pay a little bit more?
There was a whole
All right, I'll
strat,
finish this
like,
one and then
chasing
we'll
around
call it
bugs
there
to
for the
get
hour.
extra
See what we got.
points.
Well, I mean, there is like you could. So, for example, in the game, you have a lot of escort missions, and you could purposely leave a
Maybe.
person out to get killed and take pictures of them dying and get a bunch of brutality, photo points, stuff like that. Yeah. So there was, at the very least, you are removing
There's
an
some
element
There we go.
gameplay
that had some
element there.
yeah, that had some points, skill points that you could get out of it. Are you going to do Dead Rising's remake or remaster or whatever it's
I
called?
don't know, honestly. I really need to look into some reviews, get better info on it.
I think you would like it because it's so sandboxy.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean,
I could see that.
I feel like you would love the stupid shit. You're like putting barrels over zombies' heads and kicking soccer balls into their faces.
That type of creative stuff is fun.
Yeah. What else do we got here? Let's see. We talked about that. Black Myth Wukong's got some new stuff that's come out.
All right, let's see what we got. Maybe. Don't kill my horse. All right, let me pull up Garmoth here. We'll log in my numbers. All right, so if we remember from the beginning, I was at 51,287. All right, 19K. Nice. My best hour yet. So 19,019, 150 Blackstones, 2 of those, like 4 of those, got 33 of those. We did not get any compasses. Let's see. We got what? Two of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of that. We got 5. We got 2. Too heavy. What's too heavy? Oh, Yeah, okay, 5 of those. Oh yeah, 80 of these. 37. 21. All right, I think I got it all. Maybe. Hey, 714 million. What was my drop rate? 197. 197. It's weird. 85. 197. We'll hit save. All right, so this is what I've gotten so far, 3 hours here. Maybe. So you can see my first hour, I got 17.2, 621 million. And then my second hour, I got 17.2, 639 million. And then this hour here, which honestly, I think I could have even pushed more trash if it wasn't like partially falling asleep. I got 19K. So your boy's balling. And 714 million. So yeah, not bad. Not bad, not bad. Uh, 3. All right, I kind of want to watch the Call of Duty trailer. Black Ops 6. Let's see. Black Ops 6 trailer. Is it multiplayer? Yeah, multiplayer. Multiplayer leak. Gameplay. Which one is it? Maybe let's do this one. Let's see. All right, I'm gonna mute this. Well, it looks like it's just what a dolphin dive. Okay. I mean the movement. Like I don't really see much of a difference with the movement. Am I going crazy? Dude, what? I love his name, Espresso. Such a cool change to attachments. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Movement doesn't really seem. Oh man, that's an OG map, bro. Whoa, that's an OG map. These are like all OG maps. Black Ops, I mean, it's got all the Black Ops maps. What is that? Why is it dark? What's it doing? So this is gonna be on the Game Pass. So you don't even have to pay for the game. You can just do a Game Pass. That's kind of cool. Still looks like it's not like it's set like in the too far back in the day. That's what the M4 right there. Was that the M21? M16 maybe. But, yeah, okay. I mean, oh, here we go. Omni movement. What is this Omni movement?
On a map here at this. I think that was again part of Skyline, if I'm remembering correctly, but just listings. Gameplay items, we saw a little bit of that Omni movement here, where it looks pretty fluid, pretty solid paced, and it was something that, again, based off of what
Oh, that's weird.
they detailed in the sort of Black.
Wait. Okay. That is very. So you. So you can keep running. Because usually, if you would have to, in order to run, you would have to face forward. And if you went sideways, you would just like not necessarily run. But it looks like you can just constantly run regardless if you're going forward, backwards, or side.
You know, we've seen a lot.
Crap. Come on.
Listings. Gameplay items, we saw a little bit of that Omni movement here, where it looks pretty fluid, pretty solid paced, and it was something that, again, based off of what they detailed in the sort of Black Ops 6 Direct, it was essentially the same thing you saw here with it, but just instead without the sort of menu footage, tutorial stuff, and button inputs that was associated with it. Instead, just on a map here at this. I think that was, again, part of Skyline, if I'm remembering correctly, but just showing a little bit of that sort of back and forth and side-to-side movement, all the same pacing structure that you'd have when being able to just move simply forward. Diving front, diving back, side to side, all that kind of stuff. You also had some looks at the menus where lethals had frags.
Okay. Guess that's kind of cool. Alrighty. Well. On that note, whoa, it is dark in my room now. Man, what happened to my lighting? Yo, it's got super dark. Huh. It's probably because I have it set manually. Probably need to not do manual and just set it. Whoa, now it's like super bright. And now it's going back dark. That's so funny. It's like my camera's pulsating light, dark, Light, dark. That's kind of funny. Huh. I think you guys just have on automatic settings. I just need to change it to a set setting. Won't be too hard. All right, well, YouTube, I'm going to peace out, get some sleep. I got a long day tomorrow, but it's the weekend. So that's exciting. But I hope y'all have a good day tomorrow. Hope y'all have a good weekend. And I'll catch you next time. Peace, peace.